rock and roll.
Okay, YouTube
So-
starting.
Mr. Colton or Miss Bridgette, who would like to go first?
So I guess I can start. So I guess the reason we were seeking this meeting with you guys is the Cortez Area Chamber has been struggling, to say the least, for actually a few years, and COVID definitely didn't help that that process for the chamber. But since, some of this started, or as COVID began, we actually did, make some pretty big changes at the chamber. So we have an entirely new board. All of us that are on the chamber board really haven't been associated with the chamber in the past. We feel like we're really moving in a really great new direction and things that way. But the impact from last year's COVID-19 on the local community and our local businesses here has been severe to the local chamber, and made it really difficult for us to execute the kind of the goal and the mission of the chamber serves for the area. And the 2020 budget shortfall from COVID for the chamber was $86,408 from what our revenue for 2020 should have been.
Could you repeat that number, please?
It's $86,408 was our budget shortfall for 2020. And so that's, I think, what we're really here for is we're hoping that the county can come in and help make up some of that lost revenue so that we can continue forward on the path that we are hoping to execute for the chamber. We have, we just went under a complete new restructure of how the chamber's structured. You guys should all have packets with that information. It's new membership levels, sponsorship levels, new events, activities, programs, things that way that the chamber is wanting to roll out. But a big piece of that starts with us being able to restaff the chamber. So we moved on from, we had a prior executive director that, to say the least, was not being effective for the chamber. And that and a prior board member who we kind of kept involved because we thought we needed that history to be part of the chamber was actually what was holding it back. And once we've kind of let those things go, we've realized how much more we can accomplish and get done and how much more effective we are as a chamber and as a chamber board. Just since moving on from those couple of individuals, it's made a big difference in what we're able to get cleaned up and get the chamber really back to a really good position. The chamber's probably in the best position that it's been since I joined the board a little over a year and a half ago. So we're really looking to take that next step. What we really need, though, is some type of seed funding to help us get going. With the new restructure that we're trying to implement, the chamber has the potential, based on that, to bring in a little over $147,000 a year in revenue. With that, we would have the revenue to cover all our operational expenses as well as all of our staffing expenses to staff the chamber like we believe it needs to be staffed to be, an effective organization here for our business community. It's going to take a little bit of work to get there, though, and that's where we're hoping you guys can come in and help and fill that gap between now and us getting to where we can fire on all cylinders there. So I know that we had presented stuff to you guys before on, and we had made an initial request for $100,000. We would still love to see that, but we are open to anything. Really we're kind of seeking this meeting. We know we have 2 new commissioners. And we know that you guys have different budget needs right now, and you have probably concerns with your own impacts from COVID still, and things that way. And, I always get you guys mixed up with the city on what your funding sources is between sales tax and property tax and things that way. But, I can understand that since you guys are property tax only, that there probably are some concerns. Because I know on the sales tax side, some of that didn't really take that big of a hit here last year, but property tax is still probably a bit of an unknown. So I can see where there may be some hesitation there. But I think that us having a very effective Chamber of Commerce to the biggest city in the county makes a big difference in that, and can actually help grow the community, because really the only way you grow property taxes is by growth overall. And commercial growth actually has the biggest impact on that side. And the biggest driver of, commercial growth in a community is the Chamber of Commerce, and it's an effective Chamber of Commerce. And right now Cortez doesn't have one of those. And it really hasn't had one probably for the better part of, 5, maybe 10 years. And I think that's what's really held back Cortez. Cortez has so much potential. And it just pains me to see it continue to just kind of sit stagnant when it has so much ability to push things forward. And that's where I think we can really drive this as a board. We have a very dedicated board, very motivated board, a very savvy, knowledgeable board that I don't think the Chamber's ever had, those types of individuals on a board before. And we all understand business, we understand finance, we have a much better grasp on those things than prior. And our vision is way different than the typical nonprofit thing, and that's what we want to move away from. That's one of the big things I think that the Chamber's been stuck in before is in kind of that nonprofit rut that is there, and it just kind of gets slogged down in that. And we want to separate from that and push forward and really focus on, driving business growth and economic development here in the city and the county. And I think that we have the structure and we have the people to help do that. We just need a little boost in funding to help us get there. And so I guess, what questions do you guys have for us, and how can we help you guys at the same time, in return for you helping us?
Well, one of my questions in the beginning, and I asked this, so if we work to fund you in some fashion or form, we have two other chambers that we also have to deal with, Dolores and Cortez, and they are funded strictly by the lodger's tax.
Well, they also get funding from their municipalities.
But it's not very much.
Correct.
It's actually pretty minimal. And you said Cortez didn't fund anything at all to you guys at all? Or
No,
have
so
you
we don't
asked?
receive any lodger's tax revenue at all, because that was spun off into Mesa Verde Country. So with the creation of Mesa Verde Country, that lodger's tax goes there to drive tourism. And so the chamber is completely membership funded. Our only source of funding is memberships and sponsorships of the chamber directly. And so that's where it's a big challenge with there being kind of an economic hit to the area right now, that a lot of what people cut from their budgets first is those membership fees, and especially the sponsorship side. It's really hard to get, people to, put up, $5,000-$10,000 sponsorships, which we've received in the past, but the economic uncertainty makes that really difficult for them to do right now. And so that's where we're looking towards, one of the local government, entities here to help step in and fill that gap until we can get back to a little bit more sense of normal, which I think we're turning that corner, but we're not there yet. And I'd hate to see us lag behind, so severely, when we have a chance to really, press this forward and get this off the ground and moving in the right direction, so that we can make that recovery even quicker than what I think it will be if we don't have a good, effective chamber in place.
So I've got a couple of questions. Well, first, let me address them. You said something about the property taxes. As you know, on the November ballot, one of the questions was to repeal the Gallagher Amendment, which kept commercial and non-commercial split 55-45 on the property taxes, with the commercial paying 55% of the overall property taxes and residential paying 45%. That was repealed, but there was no wording in the ballot of how it was going to be replaced. So for next year, at this point, we have zero idea what our funding structure looks like. Our assessor doesn't even know how she's going to assess property taxes. So I did just want to throw that out there so everybody in the public is aware of it. And I've got 3 questions, so if you'll bear with me. My first is, how are you working with the tri-chambers? How is your board? In what ways are you working with the
So
tri-chambers?
we have a
right now?
collaboration with the tri-chambers. We formed that to kind of create a more cohesive information source. So rather than us all putting out our own newsletters and doing our own kind of information dissemination that way, we've combined it all into one combined newsletter that goes out to membership as a whole. And we also work to renew memberships across the board. So if someone signs up for the Dolores Chamber, they also have the option to add on a membership in the Cortez and Mancos chambers. So it gives that ability for us to have some kind of cross collaboration. We're also working together on 2 other big projects right now. There's what's called Love Local Montezuma, which is a new website that's gone up. And there is they're kind of like Montezuma bucks, or they're for that program that allow people to buy and use the programming into the point of sale systems to allow kind of like a specialized program to help people spend locally. So it allows you to sell gift cards that, can be used locally. So it's a kind of a promotional activity that way, as well as it has its own website to help promote local businesses and things that way. So that's one of the projects we're working on with the tri-chamber effort, and we're also collaborating on, it's a local relocation guide. So, and that'll help, put out information to, help businesses as well as individuals who are looking to relocate here have, one source of information for, a lot of that relevant info that people need when they're looking at, coming to a new area. And we think that that's been something that's not been readily available, and that's one of the big complaints we get as a chamber is, there's not really a good source of information for those kinds of things, information on schools, daycares, housing, all of those things. And so we're working together with that, and we did receive a grant through Region 9 as the tri-chambers to put together, that project, or at least get that launched. So that is, something that we're also seeking additional funding for, as far as sponsorships and things that way, that we hope, some people will do that so we can eventually put that in print form. But we expect to have an online version of that here by next month.
That's the deal that Susan had been talking.
Yeah. Okay, so my next question is, what is your membership renewal to date?
To date for 2021,
Correct.
we have had less than 5 members renew for 2021.
Okay, and the reason I ask that is to make the commission aware that the CVRF money, the coronavirus relief funds that we currently have, it would be a stretch to try and fund the chamber directly, but it is not a stretch to make monies available to the business owners. And so one thing that could possibly be done is to use some of that to aid businesses in paying their chamber fees. So that would be an option that's available to the board. And so that brings me to my next question. If something like that were to happen, with the new board controlling the chamber and the services being provided to those businesses, what would your priorities be for serving those businesses? What do you want to implement, and what do you want to do on behalf of the businesses?
So I think we, go with what, the chamber does. The chamber is a referral hub. It's a connector. So that's its biggest benefit to businesses, is it kind of serves as that central point of contact, so that when people are looking for, a product or service, or have some type of, request, we can field those calls, and that's what comes in through the chamber, and then we can then connect them to member businesses. So that referral program and kind of the marketing side of that is a huge advantage to local businesses, especially those that don't have strong marketing and web presences of their own. So that, kind of provides that central point there that then can, field that information and then connect them to, relevant businesses. So that's a big thing. And we are in the process of actually putting together and revamping an entirely new website that'll have an updated member directory on that front that will be a lot more effective at helping, in that cause of connecting people to those member businesses. And then, we are really looking forward to getting back to, some of our events, like our business after hours events. That is something that with COVID, we haven't been able to host a business after hours. And we think that's a really valuable tool that allows networking in the community and people to be able to get out and meet other business owners that can maybe help, if they're going through the same things, and they can share struggles and they can share ideas and they can do things that help promote that business community and help them collaborate together. And without a central point to do that through a chamber, which is generally the primary, avenue for those kinds of things, that part of our community is really not able to grow right now. And so we are targeting a return to business after hours in May of this year. We're looking at doing that as originally an outdoor event, and we're hoping that we can maybe do a few outdoor events through the summer, and maybe by fall, stuff for COVID has cleared enough that we can move to having indoor events and continuing that as well. We also are looking at expanding on, we also, collaborate with other organizations on it's called an Empower Breakfast, and so that's an activity that right now has been just being held virtually. That would be, another thing that would be nice to be able to continue to do that and get that back to where it could be an in-person event, because that networking piece is a big key to that. And then another aspect that we are really looking to, push into a little bit more is we'd like to start having what are called leadership luncheons, or lunches with leaders. And that's a program that we have targeted towards kind of more of a young professional crowd. We'd like that to be something where, we can have a monthly luncheon where, young professionals in the community can come and listen to, a leader in our community or a leader from a, neighboring community that's a business leader that they can learn from and ask questions of, and have that mentoring ability and get that mentorship from someone that's kind of been there, done that, and have that type of a thing on a monthly basis. And we're hoping that if we can get that program going that way and get those lunches well attended, that we can eventually roll that into a full-fledged young professionals program, which is something that the Montezuma County and Cortez has never had. And I think that puts us at a big disadvantage to neighboring communities like Durango and Farmington that have, strong young professionals programs that, help foster that young starting business owner and those types of individuals that really need another place to network and collaborate together.
How many people do you have in the membership of Cortez? Or that was prior to COVID? What was your number?
So prior to COVID, we had about 280 businesses.
What's it cost a business to be a member?
So that's in your packet there. So it's based on employee count. So they're, depending on how many employees they have, it varies their
Oh, I see.
their cost there.
So probably an average of 300, 6 to 10. I mean,
Approximately,
probably.
we think that most businesses are probably in that 1 to 10 employees here. So how we've structured and kind of projected our budget is actually that about 80% of those businesses are in the 1 to 5 category. That could be being conservative on that side, but we didn't want, as far as a projected budget, to push that high. And that actually brings that category down a little bit. So our prior membership levels started at 249, and so this provides a new category for kind of those smaller businesses to get in at a little bit lower rate than what they had an option to before. And that's what we're really hoping to do and make some shifts. And that's why we shifted to the employee count version 2, because we're going to start working at having basically it'll be a cover charge for our after hours events. That hasn't been something that's happened in the past. but most other chambers, business after hours do charge a cover, and that cover then goes towards helping cover the cost of the after hours events. With how they've been being done here in the past, it's not cheap to put on a business after hours event. So the businesses that have hosted those events have typically been the same, 12 businesses that host them. And it's ones that have deeper pockets in our community, and it really neglects those other businesses, especially those that are starting and really looking for that exposure that would really be beneficial from that type of an event. And so by charging a cover, it'll allow the chamber to share in that cost, or at least help cover a lot of that cost, and make the business after hours events a lot more accessible to, a lot smaller businesses that don't have the same budget of, the big banks and other things in town that typically host those events. So, and we think that'll help promote better membership too, because we think that's a little bit why some of the membership has struggled, is because how the chamber was previously structured really kind of focused on a handful of large businesses in our community. And most of those businesses already have their own marketing programs. They have stuff that, really helps, kind of drive their own thing. What really is being left out of that equation, or has been historically here, is a lot of those smaller businesses and startup businesses. And so that's who we would really like to help focus on and kind of be an incubator to those types of businesses in the community.
You guys, forgive me for not knowing, but do you have a physical presence? I mean, is there an office somewhere?
So we have an office in the cultural center, and that's another thing that we would really like to, maybe look at with you guys. Something that we came up on the last Montezuma Business Task Force, which, the chamber is a participant to that as far as the task force goes. Region 9, Laura with Region 9 brought up that something that's missing in this area that could be really beneficial would be a co-working space, somewhere that people, that work remotely and stuff can come and have, access to high-speed internet and stuff that way, because high-speed internet is lacking in the county. But to have, a central point, a location where they could come in and do their work and do those things would be, a huge, benefit to the community. And so that is kind of one of the other ideas that we had thought might be something that the chamber and the county could collaborate on, is maybe finding a space that works for that the county covered that cost and the chamber could run it. So it would help us get an office space that, puts us out where we have a little bit better exposure, because right now in the cultural center, we're kind of up on a second floor, and it's not very accessible to the community.
What are you guys doing with that nice one-level courthouse?
So having, some type of, our goal is to really move into a space that has, better accessibility than where we're at currently. And so that could be another avenue that we could work with, the county, that, we could maybe work together on developing a co-working space that the chamber could office out of and manage, so that we had that ability for the county and, shared the, kind of share in that cost of managing a space like that.
Anything else, Joe?
No, I don't. It's like Shaq said, we don't know our financials until,
Well, I like Shaq's idea of using
Yeah.
some of the COVID money and trying to, that would help the community more than anything.
Well, it goes to the businesses which are generating that 29% of the taxes that they're
Yeah.
paying. I'm not, I'm just kind of doing some math here. If you have 280 approximately memberships, at 225, that's $63,000. And that, Shaq, would not be a stretch, because we should know where we're at right now with our COVID money.
We
the
do
remainder of
know
it.
what we have left in our COVID money, yes.
And everything is up to date and current. I mean, so where I'm at is that the businesses are the ones that are impacted. And they are the ones that have taken the beating over this whole last year. So I'm a little,
We could ask the chamber to do a survey monkey with the businesses that were previously enrolled to see if the businesses felt that the COVID dollars being used to pay the chamber dues whether they felt that that would be the best benefit to them for that money.
And what do we?
would you be willing to do that? Could you do a,
Yeah, I think we could do something like that. The problem right now is we don't have the staffing to conduct some of that type of stuff.
You're back to square zero other than a board.
Yeah.
Yeah, other than a board. And so that's where, we need the ability, we need to get some funding in the door so that we can refill those staffing positions and have people that can run that. And
Well, could you work with Dolores and Mancus to do that and have them pull their businesses that haven't renewed as well? That way we're not cutting them out.
Well, like I said, that's my biggest concern with their funding source this year. With the largest tax that they work off of, it's gonna be drastically reduced also.
And so if we
and I
put
hate-
that survey out to the businesses countywide, then we're not favoring one municipality over another.
Right.
I would like to see if you could do that, and if it's done rather quickly, then we can make a decision on how much funding we have and where we would be.
Because
You
if
know.
we could fund 250 members, that would be 10 times what we could come up as a donation as far as your list there.
Well, it
It
would be,
more beneficial to you guys to have, and then the involvement of the businesses.
And there's the non-member businesses. What do we do about those?
well, we've kind of projected that just looking at past, historic, figures and things that way, that there's the potential to enroll as many as 400 plus businesses in Cortez. Because like I say, the membership actually had been declining for the better part of the last, 3 to 5 years. So looking at that 280 member number, that number that isn't actually a great
Right.
number of what there are, in potential businesses out there. If we look at just, we have another list of businesses that's 700 plus, businesses. Some of those may or may not exist. I don't know how. We haven't really had the ability to go through and completely, update that type of list, but it has, more than 700 businesses on that list. So that gives you an idea a little bit of the potential out there for some of those things, and I think that the chamber could grow into a lot of that and have some of that. But I guess my biggest concern is the timing on the funding, because every day that goes by, the harder it is to keep the chamber running and going, and that's the struggle. And yes, we could look at doing surveys and things that way to do that, but I'm afraid that the time factor there is going to make it really difficult for us to be effective on other fronts. Because if we can't get some funding from the county, we're going to have to try to push in a different direction on renewals and other stuff that way that isn't going to be. The two won't really work well hand in hand. And in a lot of ways, I almost feel like we kind of missed that opportunity where. Because with the CARES Act stuff, Mancus included chamber memberships with the grants that the city did. And so they granted chamber memberships to everyone that applied for the grant. And I think that would have been a great opportunity if we would have done that the same with like the county or the city. And we tried that last fall. We didn't get any traction on that front. And that was, we were kind of disappointed that, one, that the city didn't feel like that was a valuable piece as much as, I think both Mancus and Dolores both gave that as an option, to add that to the grants that they issued to businesses as part of their CARES Act stuff that way. And so I don't know if you guys could do a round 2 on that front that allowed businesses to apply for a grant and then include the chamber membership on that. That might be a quicker option to do that, but my biggest concern is the timing, because really, we need to kind of make a move here probably by the end of this month before we, kind of miss the window here of trying to initiate a big membership drive for this year. Because, once we get beyond that, it's really hard to start renewing member businesses when you're only going to get half a year of membership, that you're paying for. And it's going to make that renewal push and, the sign up push that much harder, every week that goes by from this point forward.
How much money do you need by the end of the month?
I think what he asked was they're acceptable to whatever we can do.
Yeah.
So here's kind of what I'm thinking, and I'll just use the numbers based on what they were in the past, not the potential. And I hope that you can get to that 400 plus number. And if it's basically at the 225, which is on the back of the sheet, which would be the 1 to 5 employee category, is $63,000. If my math is correct.
I
So-
agree with that, 63.8.
If we can actually use that funding, because the businesses are the ones that are hurting, the businesses are the ones that generate that tax revenue for us, and to be able to give back 225 for 280 businesses, if that's what works, I mean, I would be.
I have a
least
meeting with Laura
open to that.
Lewis on Thursday, and I can reach out to her and throw the idea that she was the Region 9 administrated all those grants for us. So I'll field that to her on Thursday, if that's the direction the board chooses to go.
That would be my number that I would throw out. That would be what I would feel would be acceptable, if we have that much left. And if we don't, then we'll work with that number that we do have.
Could we structure that in, a grant from the county that comes to the chamber, and then we could disseminate that to members? And then if we end up not being able to basically use that funding, we could return it to the county after a set period of time?
You could do that with county money. You could not do that with CVRF money.
And I think that's what the hangup is.
Because, that's where I
So-
could say, we could take that and,
Now you
sign
could do
everybody up
that.
for it, and then, what we, make a big push here on renewals and say, we have, for businesses in this category, we can cover, based from money that the county has set aside, we can cover X amount of your membership, because, obviously there's some different levels there, but then that'd allow, businesses to come in and say, well, we can cover the first $225 of your membership, and we could see, over the next 6 months where we get to, and if we don't utilize all $63,000, we could then return that back to the county. Is that something that we could?
You could, I mean, it's not a budgeted item. You could amend the budget and you could choose to do that. There is enough money to do that. We'd need to do a resolution, vote on it next week to amend the budget to do that if you want to do it out of county funding. You could not do that out of CVRF money. The other option is you could do a low or no interest loan that would then allow them to pay that back. But
Could you then
we
pay
could
it off?
amend the budget and you could choose to do that.
So the fund that we have that's set aside for economic development, that
The
line
revolving
item
loan fund.
through that revolving loan fund, could we utilize that?
Yes, again, you'd have to do a resolution and amend the budget to use
Right.
it, just like, that's the money we initially pulled. When COVID-19 hit,
That's
we were
when
the
we
first
did the
county in
grant
the state
funding.
to step up and say, hey, let's get this money out to the businesses. And that's what we did. We amended the
So
budget. and gave
here's what I'm
Bridgette
thinking is
$900,000.
you and Laura or Colton work through those technical aspects of it. I would like to use the COVID money because that's really helping the businesses that were impacted. by
Okay,
far the
so if we
most.
do that, it goes to the businesses, then to them, and he's asking for money straight to
Right,
them.
because then that way you don't know if they're going to actually utilize it for that membership renewal, right?
Yeah.
What if we had our membership application and with it, that one-page form to apply for the grant? And what if they went together to you. There's
Oh, and
that
then-
one page.
Do a membership
And then
drive,
we
and
pay
it just
it.
shows that.
Well,
Well,
right,
the
so
same
there's-
form that we had for the businesses to
That's
get
what I'm-
grants in the fall.
Yeah.
And include on that a membership form. I will run that by Laura on Thursday, so they would apply for the grant and then Region 9 would cut the money to the chamber and to the business, and then we would just cut a check to Region 9.
So that one form, the business would be filling it out. As what I'm recalling is there was the $500, up to
Mhm.
500 that you could ask for, and it was one page,
Mm-hmm.
and that's all you took. So I was just thinking if that was something that we could assist with, and then,
I'll run that past Laura on Thursday, and I can send you the invite to the meeting we're having anyway if you'd like. Or depending, I can send you the invite, and if you can't make it, you can hit decline
And that's on Friday,
Thursday.
Thursday, so we could have you an answer by Friday.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, you guys can't make a formal decision till Tuesday, but we can have you a
Well,
preliminary idea.
We can have everything in line for that, if that will work in that regards to that.
I guess
Portion of that.
my question would be on an alternative to that. You say that you have those loan funds. Would it be possible to issue a loan to the chamber that had a forgiveness clause in it, that if we met certain benchmarks and stuff that way, as far as, membership renewals and additions that way, that then it allowed the county to forgive that, and at that point, could you then use those funds to come in and pay off the loan?
I mean, we could use that as a plan B if John could draft something like that.
I definitely think that I see him shaking his head, could go for a Plan B in that regards, because that was set aside, and I can't even remember the year when I
wanna
looked at that
say
fund, but it was,
The early 2000s, maybe late 90s.
yeah, set
It was-
aside
it was a
for
long time ago.
economic development or this type of a situation.
Friends don't tell friends that the 80s were 40 years ago.
So I think we have, step one and step two that we can work to move forward with.
Okay.
He can put it on the agenda, we can deal with it on Tuesday, but at least we have a direction, kinda, I think, if we agree.
Yeah.
And I think pushing towards a membership, if you get them involved right now, then you have more of a chance of them coming back next year on their own, if you can get them involved this year.
No, I think that's the big thing here is they need to see that, that things are new. It's a new chamber, really, we're
If you have to
moving
get
in a new
approved to 'em
direction.
this year that this is gonna roll, so you can get them enrolled next year.
No, and that's what we.
But what's the new name gonna be?
Well, we haven't really discussed that part of it. but-
Montezuma Cortez Chamber of Commerce. Excuse me.
And we have put that out there. If the county is the one that steps forward and really helps us, make this happen and helps us close that gap, we are definitely, willing to look at renaming the chamber to show
Just something to think about.
yeah.
well, and we do have some members of the chamber that are in the county already. So it's not that we're not serving them now. And
I would say actually, a good number, probably close to half of them don't actually
Reside in the
reside
city.
in the city. So, it is the Cortez area chamber, and so we actually have, members that span, Cortez, Mancos, Dolores, Durango, Farmington. We've, had, membership that's actually covered even, outside of the county. So there's, as far as, like I say, that list of 700 and, plus businesses has, businesses that, span the whole region, to that regard. So there is definitely that opportunity, but I would say just in, of those, 280 or so businesses that we do have renewals on, I'd estimate that pretty close to half of those, reside outside of Cortez City proper, so.
Okay,
I'm not opposed to a name change if that's what you're asking.
anything else? I think we have a direction. Chuck will have his meeting on Thursday. We'll have Plan A and Plan B, and they'll place it on the agenda so that we can make a decision next Tuesday.
Okay, so if that goes to Region 9, so Region 9 would then be the one in charge of implementing that grant program then, or how would we?
That's correct, and they'd invoice us and we'd pay them.
Yeah.
Okay,
Kind of just like we did in the beginning for all of the businesses. Everything went through Region 9 because they're more of a banking institution type.
yeah,
They know those rules and regulations, we don't. So to make sure that we keep everything straight and accounted for.
okay.
Okay?
Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank
bet.
you.
Yes, thank
Thank
you.
you, guys. All right.
Thank you.
Your jacket.
We kind of have to wait till 6:30 now, guys.
No, we don't. It's not a
You don't?
timed agenda thing. I don't have a time on the agenda. It's not a public hearing. If everybody's here, we can get rolling.
I'm good with it.
Is everybody here, Jim? Good. Let's get rolling.
Come on up.
You know, that place where you sleep?
Yeah?
It's on. I just sent you guys an email
Yeah.
just now. It was from Integrity. They backed out of the bid after we talked to them.
What'd you tell them?
Well, when Rick and I called them all, and we wanted to make sure they understood what they were actually bidding on, because there was a couple of their numbers that were really low. And one of them was that rock price at $6. And he basically was very clear that he just kind of threw some numbers out, and we're like, no, we're gotta be pretty close to this bid, so, yeah.
So we talked to Rick and Jason, the owners of Integrity, and they did not come down and view the project. They did not even have some of their employees come down, nor did they, and as Jim alluded to on the rock price, it was $6 per foot for cobble. And explained to them that, well, we got that sandstone shelf down there. Talked to them about that. They never have done high count fiber 1728. And they were very unsure of their numbers, and they asked to call Jim and I back. So about 15 minutes later, they called back and wanted to withdraw their proposal. And we asked them to send an email so we'd have it in writing.
So I guess I don't have that email.
I
don't-
just forwarded it to
I
everybody.
literally just sent it,
Oh, okay.
like, while I was sitting there.
Go on.
Do you get it?
Right, yes.
Yep, I just got it. Okay. All right, so if we pull that off the table,
So then we called advanced as well.
so we're looking at advanced DAC and Circle Z.
Correct.
We did not call DAC because we figured they were way too high, so.
Right. So we're looking at the two in the center.
Excuse me.
So are we looking at the total bid or just the base bid? Because the total bid with the alternates, or are you looking, because with the alternates, we're going to be over budget. Right.
So that is correct, but if you look at advanced, we did call advanced, and advanced with the alternate route, they're actually under.
Oh, right, okay. The 296,
296, 285.
285.
So we called Josh Curtis from Advanced. Josh Curtis actually grew up here, so he's very familiar with the area. And
He also did the survey of the site, walked it and drove it. He's comfortable with his numbers. Way of background, because I didn't know much about Advanced, that he's put in fiber for Windstream and TDS. And I asked him for a little more background on his company. They started out doing well service work, and then when things went kind of goofy in South Dakota, I think it is,
yes,
they pivoted and started putting in fiber. He's comfortable with his numbers. The one thing that he did say they have not worked with CDOT very much. Other than that, he was comfortable with his numbers.
So he is comfortable with the numbers.
Yes.
Is he comfortable with the time frame?
And we talked about the time frame that, in fact, we told both companies that the tight budget and also the tight time frame, and he was comfortable with that too.
So,
and we did ask him about the rock too, in case that question came up. And he understands the shell, the sandstone going down here. And he said that he would more than likely just bring a saw and cut it and drop the conduit down in there.
so are you guys comfortable with that then? Are you comfortable? Because that really is truly the low bid.
It is
Correct.
it is the low bid since Integrity pulled out, yes, sir.
So if we're looking at the entire, with the alternates, they are substantially lower.
Yeah, about
28,000.
28,000.
A little less than 28.
So if we're looking at just the base, the base, they're within 267, 288, $1,200, $1,300.
I know before you make a decision that Monty and Jerry reached out to me and they would like to address you before you make your final decision.
Okay. Here's my question, is if you look at the bids with the alternates, typically we would like to see a minimum of a 10% contingency in there just in case.
I
mean,
agree.
things come up. We don't have, both of those bids are going to be over the budgeted amount of money.
That is
So
correct.
I think that we're going to have to throw the alternates. I mean, what do you guys think? I don't think we can actually view that at this point in time. I've never seen a project yet that doesn't have some kind of contingency fund in it.
I
And
agree.
I don't think that we're gonna make it at 296 or 324. 324, we're already over. So if we go back to the base bid,
Then they're both within about $1,200.
$1,300.
$1,300. Correct.
I mean, I know we would like to pick up those 50 more served. That's the alternate.
Correct.
B?
Be about 52.
Okay. Gentlemen, what do you have?
Well, everybody that's called me says we should take the lowest bid, is what all of my constituents have said this afternoon. There've been a bunch of them called, so.
Let them say their piece. They're here.
Yeah. Come on up.
Monty Giles. I live at 38871 Highway 160 in Mancos. I was watching today on the closed loop system or Facebook or whatever it is. John Baxter said things that were factually incorrect and disingenuous. And he has said these things multiple times. Circle Z Construction has never had legal issues with this county. There has never been any legal issue with Montezuma County and my company. There has never been any legal issue with me personally or any company that I have ever owned in Montezuma County. That is factually incorrect. Now, I went and sat with Keenan Ertel, Commissioner or ex-Commissioner Ertel this afternoon, and he agreed to be here at 6:30 because I thought 6:30 is when this was going to kick off, to set the record straight. The courthouse that I was the owner's rep on is what John Baxter was talking about. He said that it was finished behind schedule, which is factually incorrect. The courthouse was also completed $30,000 under budget. It was a very successful project. I was asked to work for 2 months for free on this project by Sukla. I told him I would not do it. I negotiated in good faith with the commissioners and came to a resolve. Keenan Ertel and James Lambert voted 2-1 to continue my employment to finish the construction project. The construction project, my contract, was elapsed because it took 4 months on the front end to get a permit from the city of Cortez and Ken Torres. That's what pushed my contract past the construction. It wasn't anything to do with the construction being behind schedule. That courthouse opened on schedule. If you take the local preference that we all hear about, and I don't know if it is something that's in a bylaw or a statute or not, and you apply it to the base bid, we are the low bid. We are the local company, and we are the low bid. There are 20 men that work for me that this will affect. Most of them you know. It bothers me a great deal to have my company and my reputation and my name slandered publicly and on the record by an attorney that should know better. Mr. Ayers has spent hours and hours walking through this project, helping the county, reaching out to the city, selecting routes, products, everything. I enjoy the bid process, and I think it's fair in the way things should be done. We went through the bid process. We have never had legal issues with that, with the county, ever. I will happily answer any questions, gentlemen, but the things that were said today on the record are factually incorrect. And this, yes, sir.
I was just going to say that, that's not a basis for our decision today or tonight.
Yes, sir.
You know, what's happened in the past, I don't think is going to sway our decision one way or another. I mean, this is a whole new process. It's a whole new bid package. And I can tell you for me, I'm looking at it as strictly as, what do these numbers show me right now? And has everybody successfully completed the bid package properly?
Yes, sir.
So I don't want to convolute this at all.
Yes, sir.
So I think, you know, I've given you the opportunity
Thank
to
you.
say your piece, but I think right now what we have in front of us is just a bid packet with our bids to make a decision on.
Yes, sir.
And the numbers are going to speak for themselves, and that's
Okay.
kind of where we're at.
Thank you.
So, did we have a local preference? I cannot remember in that bid package at all.
No, there was not.
You bet. Yeah, come on up. Just state your name and address like normal.
My name's Jerry Ayers. I'm at 22025 County Road C1. And first off, I'd like to say I've got a lot of time in this, personal time, company time, and all of this. I started working with Jim early on this, trying to find routing and that type of stuff for you folks and the cheapest and easiest way to do it. And as Jim stated this morning, even after the fact, we've discussed different ways to save you money and whatnot there. I realize that alternate B may be over budget, but it is alternate B. It is not the base bid.
Correct. And we definitely understand that.
And secondly, I know Josh Curtis personally. His father and him both worked with me at one point in their lives, long time ago. I am local preference, even though there isn't one in there. We still know it better than everybody else, I believe, because I look out my window at it pretty much every day, and not usually all day long. He doesn't keep me locked up completely. I did mention to these gentlemen right here that I would be happy to, as we built this project, when we seen ways to make it better, cheaper, easier, more efficient, that we would come to Jim, Rick, and I'm assuming that it's you folks as well, to show you the differences, show you where we can help and the difference we can make. Now, I think that's part of being a local preference, local presence, and all of that. So there's a lot to be said here. Like I say, I have a lot of time tied up in this. I think that I think you guys will be fair. I think you'll make an honest decision, and I appreciate that. But I will state the fact again that we will find the best way to make this work for you. And the possibilities there that we can find enough to get B out of the way as well. So, and that's all I got. Thank you, guys.
Okay. I seen somebody else walk in. Is that?
He's one of mine.
Oh, okay. I was just wanted to be equal with everybody here and not cut anybody off. We can actually wait for a few more minutes for past Commissioner Till if you thought he was gonna show up.
Yeah, let's wait.
We can wait. But I can tell you right now, just looking at this, because of as close as it is, without allowing anything for contingencies, I think the only thing that we should be looking at is probably the base bid, because unless we can save some money there to come within at least a 10% margin, that we can't really exercise option B at this time. I would love to do it, but I don't think we can within the budgeted amount of money.
I think
And
Tina
that's
needs
just-
let in the building.
That's just my thought.
We absolutely understand that, and that's why I broke it out the way I did, so you could see both options. At least then you had all the information. There was quite a few unknowns, which is why we also did that. And we weren't even sure what it was gonna take at all. So,
Yeah, if I may, one of the issues is still is on the table is we don't know exactly where we're gonna end that up down there because, as you know, Loves needs to do a lot of dirt work there. We were originally looking at that old court building.
Right, the chapel? Or
Get right
the old
next to the
chapel.
road.
Yeah.
And I guess they ended up gonna need that for their drainage stuff that they're doing, so that one was out, so. And plus CDOT, where they're at, how far down that, along the highway on the CDOT port of entry property we can get, and I understand there's some litigation from the environmentals in the right-of-way that may still be an issue, so. Just sharing that with you.
Evening, Commissioners. Shaq?
Good morning,
evening.
sunshine.
Good morning, sunshine.
I think he missed you guys.
Yeah.
I've been keeping them busy. I've kept their agendas packed dawn till dusk, man.
I knew you could do it, Powers.
Yeah.
We didn't put you in there just for fun,
But it was fun.
but it was fun. It was a good time.
It just wasn't real fun.
Yeah, I mean, just that.
You want me to sign that, Jim? Okay.
Would you like to give us a few minutes of your time up here at
Sure.
this,
You have some questions for me?
at this mic?
You
No,
have
I
to stand
think-
where the regular people stand now.
More than happy to. Good evening, Commissioners. How's everybody tonight? Yeah, we're live. How you doing, Joe?
Hey, we're gonna need you to do this.
To show off that new shoulder.
Both arms.
We wanna
get
know
it that
what's good.
Good job.
It's coming, baby. It's not there yet, though. Fire away, gentlemen.
I think more of just a clarification for Monty. I think Monty gave an address and said that you would like to come
Yeah.
into.
Yeah, I, from the way Monty and I just discussed this with Monty this afternoon, he seemed to think that John Baxter had the idea or had mentioned that there had been some kind of a legal malfunction or legal process between the county and Circle Zebra or Monty Giles in some of the things that we had done at the county, and particularly referring back to the courthouse construction. To my knowledge, there was never any legal problems with Mr. Giles, and we never did employ his company. Mr. Giles came to us, and he when we were advertising for a owner's rep for the building and construction of the courthouse, Mr. Giles submitted his application to that RFP, and we selected Mr. Giles not as Circle Zebra or construction company, as Monty Giles Construction Intelligentsia, and on a personal basis. We hired him as a man, not his company. So we got into a bit of a difficulty with the city. Our contract time was for 18 months with Mr. Giles, and that was the planned construction time for the courthouse. We got into a real slowdown. The city of Cortez took 3.5, going on 4 months to get our plans approved. I mean, it was getting horrendous. I mean, we were getting so far behind in what we had contracted with Mr. Giles at a specific date. So we got pushed way back from the engineers department at the city. So coming to the end of the construction, they weren't completed at the end of those 18 months. So Mr. Giles came to the commissioners and said that he felt like his contractual agreement had ended, and that he either wanted to be paid more money to continue on the job, or that he was going to terminate his services because the contractual time had expired. So there was some disagreement among the commissioners, and Attorney Baxter agreed with one of the commissioners. Another commissioner, myself, felt that we were too far down the road to dismiss this and just say, go on your own way, we'll cover this ourselves. It was, we were right at the tail end of that project and getting ready to close it up and getting things done. And I felt personally as a commissioner that I needed his knowledge, his expertise for him to be there to finish that job. And so we went into negotiations with, I think we may have gone into an executive session with the commissioners, and then we came back and negotiated with Mr. Giles and made him an offer. He gave some, we gave some, and we contracted with him to stay on and complete the courthouse project. So I didn't see the meeting today, so I don't know what Attorney Baxter had said about legal difficulties with Mr. Giles or his company, but as far as I know and as far as I've been involved, there was never any litigiousness or there was nothing legal or in the courts or anything with Mr. Giles. It was strictly handled as a contract. Ended contract, we renewed him for a period of time to see the courthouse being completed, and he did that. And we came in under budget, and I felt it was money well spent. So,
Okay.
Any questions of me?
No, basically all I want to say is that, and I expressed this to Mr. Giles also, that's not part of our decision up here.
Okay.
We're not looking at that. We're
Yeah.
not.
Well, I think Mr. Giles, I won't speak for Mr. Giles. I think he felt like that it had
Sure,
flavored the commission's
I get that, and I understand
perception.
that. And I'll let Attorney Baxter speak here in a minute. But basically, what we're looking at right now is we're looking at just the bid price. And I
got
think
you.
that's the only thing that's in front of us.
Yeah.
How anything else plays out on the backside to something
Okay.
different,
Yeah.
kind of two different subjects, and we really need to just focus
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
the subject matter at hand. But
My only point was to make clear
Yeah.
that to me, as far as me as a commissioner, we were never in any legal dispute with Mr. Giles. It was a contractual disagreement.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Attorney Baxter, I see that you lit up. Do you have anything you need to say, or you good?
If you want me to explain the situation again and more clearly, I absolutely can.
Please do so.
Okay.
Right, so Mr. Giles, before we entered into the contract with him, I personally had that discussion with him that if it went beyond the 18 months, that he was not going to make additional money. We changed the contract. I have both copies of the contract that I can provide to you, the one that he initially submitted, and then we changed it so that he would not, understanding that if it went over 18 months, he wasn't going to get paid additional money, and that he was actually going to have to stay on the job for another year after the completion of the job anyway as well. So there was negotiation beforehand. It was really clear to me, and I also believe to Mr. Giles, what the obligations were and what the agreement was. Once it went over and Mr. Giles demanded more money, so this came up again, obviously. He wanted more money, it was going over. So, we of course brought that up. Mr. Giles did threaten to sue the county, he absolutely did. No, he did not follow through with threatening the county because the commissioners voted to go ahead and pay him the extra money he was demanding at the time. I asked him who his attorney was that was giving him this advice about, how he was going to win his lawsuit against us or whatnot. He wouldn't give me the name of the attorney for me to even reach out to communicate with and figure out what they were talking about. So that was the situation. He did threaten to sue us. And no, there wasn't an actual lawsuit. I certainly didn't say that there was. But that was the experience that we went through with the courthouse.
Okay.
Could I ask John? John, this is Keenan, and I guess I'm sorry. John, I was unaware of what you started out your conversation with, that there was a negotiation of a guaranteed completion of the project, no matter how long it took, with Mr. Giles.
Absolutely, there was.
Beg your pardon?
Keenan, absolutely there was, and I have both of those contracts. I have the first one I submitted and what I changed.
I'm saying that
the one we ended up signing.
I'm saying that I was unaware of that. I don't know, was that just you and Mr. Giles, or Melissa and you and Monty, or who negotiated that guarantee of completion of the project, no matter how long it took?
I negotiated it with Mr. Giles, and I've got both copies, the one he initially submitted and wanted signed, and what I changed. And you can very clearly see the difference, that we took that out specifically, that if it went over time, beyond the 18 months, that he was not going to get paid additional money. I had that conversation with Mr. Giles, and then we changed the contract. So, it's hard for me to reconcile that I went in and fairly negotiated with the county for an extension. I mean, the county was in a bind. We needed the courthouse completed.
Okay.
And I understand that. I didn't take issue with what the commissioners chose to do.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, John.
I mean, we can allow this to drag on
No,
with the he said, she
we're
said
done.
all night.
We're gonna go ahead and bring it back to the commission now. So I'm gonna ask you guys one more time, what is your recommendation? And we'll discuss it, and then we're gonna make a decision.
Oh, well, for me personally, taking all this personal stuff aside.
Hey, Jim,
and
is your
just
mic
looking
on?
Strictly at this, it's on.
Okay.
And looking at how close the numbers are, because they are close when you look at the base bids, and knowing what Jerry had said to Rick and I prior to this morning, this was last week, Friday, I think, that he thought there was some ways he could reduce that cost even some more once they get out and start building this. And with his relationship with CDOT, which I'm a little concerned with Advance because they do not have that. And right now, CDOT's a big part of this, because if we have an issue with CDOT, it's going to drag this on. It's going to be a problem, especially with the bridge. So I personally think, putting all that aside, for us, it has to be Circle Z. And on this other side of that, they also were the ones that did the 7th Street extension project, and that went off without a hitch, and he stayed in total contact with me through that whole process, and I felt comfortable with that. So that's just my opinion. Rick?
I concur that Circle Zebra would be my preference, although I've been in city government, local government long enough to know that that's not always the case. But I have worked with Circle Zebra on city fiber projects, and I don't have any experience with Advance. So for me, for the difference in the money, if I was in your shoes, I would take a good look at that factor.
In your experience with them, they're on time, inside budget?
They were. But let me clarify that I have not done, some of my bigger projects have not been with Circle Zebra, but They've been great to work for, or work with. And we participated on that 7th Street. That came off good. So,
Well, just looking at the numbers, if my math is correctly, and Shaq, you can check it, but we're within 1.0045%,
That's correct.
and we're 1,227.75 difference,
Correct.
if my math is correct. So, all right, gentlemen, we have a decision to make. So what is your pleasure?
No, from everybody I've talked to, I'm stuck on the low bid.
We have a company in front of us with doubts on either side. But they're here, they're ready to go, they've helped us out to start with. They've got prior work with the county. And it's hard not to hire local people. So I have to stay with Circle Zebra.
You get
Well,
to
there's not going to
I've
be
been
a,
in this
get
situation
to be
before.
there's not going to be
Yeah.
a vote till somebody makes a motion. So why don't you throw out a motion?
Well, I can
Make a
see where the
to
motion is
hire
going.
the low bid of Advanced. There's your motion.
I know what that means. So the motion is going to die to lack of a second.
It'll be a long night. Motion, we go with Circle Zebra for, lack of a better term, time served already, and local preference, which is not in the contract, but we have $1,227.75. Jerry?
And I guess that I have to, I'm looking at that also, once you take the alternate off of it, if we were looking at the alternate, it wouldn't even be close and there wouldn't be a decision to even be talked about.
Why aren't we looking at the alternate?
Because there's no way that we'll be able to stay within a contingency if anything happens to the project. Right now, we're at 296, 285, which, and then 324, so we're already over there. So basically, the bid was bid, you look at the base bid and then alternates to add if it can come within a budgetary item, which in my opinion, we don't have that flexibility to move to the alternate. So I'm looking at the base bid and I'm gonna have to agree on this one at 1%. So we got stuck up with this not too long ago, not when you guys were here, but while I was here. And it really kind of bit us in the hiney. So with 1% using local people, and I realize that we don't have a local preference in there, but it is within our discretion at 1% of $1,200, $1,227.75, I will second that motion. Any other discussion? Okay, it has been moved and seconded to accept the base bid for the, can you scroll that down, Shaq? So I can see what the actual name.
It's right here.
Oh.
Here's
Oh.
your names.
For the 2021 fiber project, the base amount of $268,862.50 to Circle Z Construction. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
And with that, we're gonna hold you boys' feet to the fire.
Oh, you better
All
believe
of
it. You better believe I'll be on this one.
All right. You have a decision, gentlemen.
Thank you.
thank you.
You can.
Sorry to take so much of your time up over this.
We're here to work. We're not afraid. All right,
We're
gentlemen.
still
have
on
a good day.
YouTube.
Do we have?
We're done.